Welcome to Ring Talk, the weekly Goodwin Boxing show with myself, Martin Theobald, and coming up, of course, will be Steve Goodwin. Before we get to that, a look back at the news over the last week. Headlines of it: Liam Williams defended his British title against Andrew Robinson in a very one-sided affair, finished in one round. Andrew Robinson looked out of his depth. There was a cut to both men. Liam Williams on the top of his head, Andrew Robinson around the eye from a clash of heads. It seemed to ignite something within Liam Williams, and he proved that he's levels above, I believe, any middleweight around the British scene at present. He's waiting on that Demetrius Andrade shot for the WBO world title. Whether that comes about or whether Andrade moves on and allows Williams to fight for it, we shall see. I don't think anyone's going to be queuing up to fight Liam Williams, really. Like, he's showing that real aggressive side at the moment. He's going to be a handful for anyone. And middleweight Liam Williams is, he's exceptional at present. He's blasting people away. Whether that carries up to world level, we'll find out. It didn't when he fought Liam Smith, but that was at light middleweight. So let's find out on that one. We're going to run through the rest of the Frank Warren card with Steve. What was announced this week? It looks like Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder 3 won't happen next. It was announced by Bob Arum that the contract that was in place for a third fight between the two of them seems to have expired for them to reach an agreement, which was due to happen in December. Seems no longer will happen in December. They're now looking at Tyson Fury having a come-home fight somewhere in Britain. He'll need to take up his licence with the British Boxing Board of Control again, because he famously let that lapse. But yeah, it looks like we're going to see Tyson Fury back on these shores. Some of the names being put out for him are F.A. Ajagba, bizarrely Lucas Brown. We'll see. I'm sure the WBO will sanction whoever they pick for the fight. I think it'd be good to see Tyson back on British shores. It's been a while. Let's hope it's somebody that can at least make it an exciting or interesting fight. I wouldn't mind a Jagba personally, but let's wait and see. Final bit of boxing news announced today on Tuesday. Conor Benn will take on Formella. Now, the reason this is kind of interest, they gave a big build-up to who will Conor Benn be fighting. And they kind of teased it on social media to give us Formella. Now, I've got to be honest, I've no idea who Formella is. I'm told he went 12 rounds with Sean Porter and lost 120, 108 on all three cards. If he went 12 rounds with Sean Porter, fair enough. He's undefeated other than that. He beat some South African geezer that I don't really know. Look, I'm not saying it's a terrible fight because I don't know Formella well enough to take a gauge. What it isn't is engaging and interesting to me. We fall in love with fighters because they're in fights that we care about. I would struggle anyone outside of looking it up on BoxRec to tell me anything about Formella other than this Sean Porter fight. What happened to the talk about Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn working together, building these cards? They can't make Conor Benn against Chris Jenkins, so if you really think that we're going to see the crossover between the two stables anytime soon, I'm afraid it looks like we're miles off. So if we end up with Benn versus Formella, I'm sure it'll be an interesting fight. Conor Benn's fights are always fun to watch. But it's not the fight we wanted. It's not the fight we asked for, but it's the fight that we've got. So we're going to move on now, and it'll be myself and Steve on the other side of this.
And welcome back with myself, Martin. And, of course, with Steve. How are you, Steve?
I'm good, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm good, thank you. I'm really good. Did you enjoy the boxing at the weekend?
Yeah, I watched it. I went out on Saturday, so I had our friend Trevor down, who's...
Did you?
He's relocating, Martin.
What, from Essex? Where's he going?
Leighton Buzzard. He's going to be down our end.
Is he?
He said, I can't bear to be away from you lot for any longer. I'm going to relocate.
Are you sure it's not that Essex have booted him out?
Probably, but he's on his way. So he's just.
Nice.
That was good. No, so I watched it all. I caught up with it all on Sunday. Not that I missed a lot on Saturday, but we'll come on to that, won't we? But yeah, no, it's all good, and things are good. I mean, Linus is chilling out after his win, so that's all good.
Good on him.
Yeah, and that's that's really what he's doing. But yeah, so
What's going on with Goodwin Boxing? You signed some more, but
well, we're up to 18 fighters now since lockdown, which isn't bad. We're not announcing them yet because I've said to all the fighters, number one, if you start announcing fighters, you'll get the dickheads trying to poach them. That happens because unfortunately that's the way people in boxing
and promise them fights.
Promise them fights, and you start going down that, it causes more hassle because so many arseholes about. And also, we don't, if you announce a signing now, you really, what does it matter? People's not really interested. Here's a signing, fantastic, might not fight for 6-9 months, but here's a signing. Nobody's going to be interested, so we would rather hold them back. What I can say is, 2 of them are ABA champions. One of them is going to fight for, I would hope, a Commonwealth title within 12 months. Some of the others are with fantastic amateur records with 80-90% winning ratios. And we've also signed a couple of journeymen as well, because we like to look after journeymen because they're the lifeblood of our sport. So I like to do that as well. So we've had a real widespread, but the doors are still open. We've got more meetings over the next 10 to 14 days. And if a boxer wants to talk to somebody and not get a load of bullshit fed their way and they want the honest truth, and then come to us. As I said before, if you want bullshit, there's plenty of places to go and talk to people for. But if you want the honest truth, come to us. And these boxers, a lot of them have done their own research and spoken to lots of other people first and then come to us at the end. It's very, very interesting. And speaking to them and what they've been told by some others. I mean, not everybody's behaves like that, but some are just behaving really badly at the moment. It's as if they're scared that they're not going to be boxers when it comes back, so they'll promise anybody anything to try and sign them. So, but yeah, so we're busy doing that, and looking forward to the weekend's boxing. Definitely some of it, which we'll come on to obviously later on. But as far as we're concerned, we're signing boxers. No other fights. I mean, Linus is taking time out. Obviously, got the Dion Juma fight. Got Jamani Camiro fighting. A great fight against a real top quality kid in Panny Donovan that I'm really looking forward to see in November. So, we've got those 2 out. And I mean, the problem is I was offered a fight the other day and somebody said they wanted one of a top welterweight to fight a real top kid in some foreign country. I'm not going to say who the matchmaker was. Great money, blah, 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 blah. 10 rounds, asked for the money. It was less than $8,000. I mean, I said to the guy, I wouldn't ask my boxer to go on a diet for that money, let alone train and fight. So, it's just ridiculous. And I think at times people are trying to take advantage of fighters being desperate to fight and taking crazy low money. And that's really not the agenda for the fighters, really. They've still got to get paid what they're worth. Or what I mean is what they're worth, what you are worth in this time. I accept that sometimes purses can't be as much as they are when they're crowds. But there are limits to saying, look, let's come to a common ground, and then there's taking the piss. And I won't let any of my fighters have the piss taken out of them. So,
but someone will fight, and someone will sign up to go over to Russia and or wherever it is, Eastern Europe, and do it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been crazy because some of these offers are bearing on like lunacy. I mean, I think I had one other one, which was couple of months ago to go and fight somewhere abroad, 10 rounds against a good kid, offered me €4,000.
Yeah. Was that the cruiserweight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. So, and you know who it was. It's just a piss take. And I mean, I said, if you want to find a mug, go and ask anybody else. Don't waste my time with a phone call because I'm not letting my fighters do things for that money. It's just taking the piss. But somebody took the fight, and there was another fight as well. And they took that fight as well. So I know they might have negotiated a little bit more in the end because I turned it down flat because you weren't going to get it anywhere near the money that I think it's worth. It's just one of those things. But it's called good management and looking after your fighters and putting your fighters before money and doing the right thing by them, I think. So that's what
and you don't need to sell off records, do you? Boxing will come back, and there'll still be a place for those boxers, when the sport returns.
And much more money, and also to have them built properly first. And, they're sold with it's a 50-50. One of the guys involved said, Steve, it's a 50-50. I said, don't be fucking ridiculous. This is not a 50-50. You want us to fight here where everybody's against them. It's not a 50-50. well, and it was fighting order. It's nonsense. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what planet they think they come on, but there must be enough inept managers because some of them are taking these purses, I guess, unless they're suddenly they're going to revamp and get 3 times the money that I was offered, you know. So we will see. But that's life. But we've got a lot to look forward to in November, and you know, hopefully, we tried to do. We were inquired about Kay Prospere against Dalton Smith, and we jumped at that fight. And Matchroom then I must have put it to them, and then they wanted to put it off until next year. But we were very keen on doing that fight now. We were happy to do that. So, you know, we will accept fights where we will go into fights where we think we've got a realistic chance and it's not also where we're not screwed over and we get enough notice. We'll always do that. But we're not going to go in short notice for low money, that's for sure. Yeah. But again, sometimes, and I don't blame them, the TV promoters want it all their way for their fighters. And you can't blame them because they've got a monopoly. So, you know, but on the other hand, the fighters that have got to be smart in saying we'll only take opportunities if they make sense. Yeah,
it makes perfect sense. I forgot to mention earlier, we've got Jamie Speight due on shortly, haven't we?
After we cover last week, when they speak to Jamie, who's making a new career for himself. He'll talk about that when he comes on, and that's not as a male model, that's for sure.
I can assure you it's not as a male model. Sorry, Jamie. Dash the hopes. Before we move on to Jamie, should we have a look at the Warren card? So let's start with, you highlighted it as a bit of a dark horse fight, a bit of a potential banana skin, potential upset. Mahib Fazaldin got beaten by Luke Jones.
No, I didn't want to say this last week because this was the first fight that Mahib has had since he left our management. So if I go on a broadcast and say any more than what I said, say I think he could lose, I'll be accused of being sour. And I wasn't being sour because I really like him. I think he's a lovely kid. And I didn't want him to lose, but I felt it was the wrong fight. And I felt off camera that he probably would lose.
I can assure you that's the case.
Yeah. But I couldn't say that last week other than say I think it's a tricky fight. I think Luke Jones was 4 rounds. I classed him as 4 rounds worse than Brad Foster, and I didn't class Mahib as being anywhere near Brad Foster's class. So if you look through the things, I think we highlighted it as best as I could. But I mean, Luke was just all wrong for him. Mahib has not had that much ring time, and I'm not saying he's not a talented kid, but it was a totally wrong fight at the wrong time in the wrong place to be putting with some kid like Luke Jones, who's far better than his record suggests. And it was just a banana skin. It was badly matched, in my opinion. But matchmakers have a hard job. They don't get it right all the time.
Was this... this will be the new matchmakers for Warren, wouldn't it? The ones that we discussed.
I have no idea whether it was Jason's match or whether somebody else has come in and matched it. But whatever you want to say, that wasn't a good match. You need to know your fighters really in ins and outs. And perhaps it was one of the new lads that came in and did it. But if they didn't know their fighters well enough, in my opinion. No criticism of them because all the 3 matchmakers are really good boxing people. But that was a slip up by a matchmaker. And it's a shame because he's built up a 14-fight undefeated record, Mahib, and it's all gone wrong for him on his first live TV appearance for quite a while. It's a shame.
But you know what? You say it's a shame. From a management perspective, absolutely it's a shame. From Mahib's perspective, absolutely it's a shame. From a fan's perspective, we love seeing upsets. Love seeing it when it ultimately goes a little bit wrong. An underdog is always a great, makes a great spectacle on a show that otherwise was fairly uneventful.
And that's true. And that fight was wow. That people go, wow, I was shocked with that fight because the rest of it was pretty drossy, really. Chamberlain, because everything else was exactly as you'd expect it to go. But I do expect that. But when you know somebody and when you know a kid, and he didn't leave on bad terms, and it's just a shame. I was sorry for him, but I thought it would happen. I genuinely thought it would happen. So
from a fan perspective, I'm all for upsets and underdogs.
Yeah. So the next one was Mark Chamberlain, who I really highly rate. I did say it would be a one-sided fight, and it was a one-sided fight against Sean Cooper, because Chamberlain is a special kid. He's very, very good. He'll fight for a British title, in my opinion, at the very least. But, you know, Cooper wasn't up to it. Gorman came in like he'd been in McDonald's for the last week, hadn't he, eating burgers?
Yeah.
What's that about?
What do you make of that? What do you make? Like, I know you're almost in two minds about it, in that he did the full 10 rounds at a semi-decent pace against a legit opponent. You know, Larty gave Dubois probably more problems than anyone else has, including Gorman.
But it shows me, forget that, it just shows me somebody that's not motivated.
Yeah. I mean, he said himself that he had to lose, what was it, like 5 stone to get to the weight that he was at on Saturday night.
But the point is, though, Martin, when you're signed by a TV promoter and you know you may get an opportunity, what are you doing 5, 6, 7 stone overweight?
I agree.
Shows a lack of motivation, in my opinion, which means that Nathan, for me, we're going back to the 1980s, 1990s, when I used to watch all the heavyweight boxing on telly, and they were all overweight and they were all plodding through the fights because they weren't motivated. And now, you know, that is unfortunately a thing with Nathan. So to me, that tells me, and I hope I'm wrong, because apparently he's a nice guy, but for me, when he steps up, he'll probably get beat, because that shows a severe lack of motivation.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's such a prominent division, and there are so many opportunities out there. You know, he could take the loser of Joyce versus Dubois. That'd be a perfect fight. He could take numerous names out there.
But
and for him,
he's not going to inspire people turning up like that. I mean, when you think next time you've got to watch a Nathan Gorman fight, who's going to be going, great, I can't wait to watch Nathan fight.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And you need to come in and make a statement. And that doesn't really help. When he fought Dubois, there were reasons that he said the performance was down to certain things. So, okay, then he comes out like that in his next fight. It isn't good enough, in my opinion. And it doesn't make his marketability any good.
Yeah, and also it doesn't look great for the sport, does it really? When you have a bloke turn up on the scales, he's in worse shape than you or I.
Exactly. And that's
it hardly looks like professional boxing, does it? It's. I get you don't have to have an Adonis kind of body, but put the effort in, lad.
Yeah, it just was dross. It was just like typical old heavyweight fights we used to watch with plodding heavyweights going around the ring. So disappointed in him. And the other two, exactly what I said. I said Williams would blast through Robinson, Hutchinson would blast through Frandino. They both blasted through them. I don't know what was expected. So all in all, pretty dire card, really.
It was. I mean, I didn't watch all of it, if I'm honest. I didn't. I watched the first couple of rounds.
We need better than that. And in lockdown times, we need better than that card.
No, I agree completely. That there's nothing even on there that inspired me to watch it, other than I enjoy watching Liam Williams at present, because the level that he's fighting at, he's fun to watch. The way he went through Andrew Robinson, I could sit there with my 11-year-old lad on Saturday night and say, come and watch this, because it ain't going to last very long.
No, exactly.
And sure enough, it didn't. And he was kind of given the wow factor about Liam Williams.
Yes.
He really enjoyed that. So look, to that degree, it was okay. I barely watched the rest of the card because there was nothing on there that interested me, if I'm honest. And that's not just being kind of in hindsight. I took no interest beforehand, and I took very little interest during.
I mean, Liam Williams does look like a massively different fighter since joining up with Dominic Ingle, doesn't he? He looks like a totally different fighter. Looks like two different men. From the man who fought Liam Smith and beforehand to what he looks like under Dominic Ingle, he looks like a totally different fighter. He's got totally different attributes. So I think on those sort of performances and whatever's happened to him to enable, whatever improvements he's made, that does put him in line. I think he's got a fair shout at a world title level. Now I think he's a different fighter. So I don't think there's any harm in. I think he'll have a pop at a world title, and I think he'll have a squeak of it as well. I think.
Do you think he'd beat Andrade?
I think there's a chance he could beat Andrade, yeah, I do. I think not the Williams of old, but the Williams of new. But again, I think it also depends on where the fight takes place, because I think Liam Williams will have a bigger advantage in the UK than he would have in America, and for various reasons. And I think if he's held over here, he could beat Andrade. I think if he's in America, I think Andrade would be, 3-on favourite. Doesn't mean he can't win, but I think there's significant more advantage in the fight taking place in the UK.
Yeah, I would agree for a multitude of reasons. Yeah.
100%. And so I think he could well do that. Hutchinson, they're building towards trying to make, towards a British title. I'm still not totally sold on Willie Hutchinson, if truth be known. I remember when he fought Eric McConzo at York Hall.
On the Haymaker show.
On the Haymaker show. I really wasn't sold on him then. I think they're matching him brilliantly. They're developing. I mean, Warren is fantastic at building fighters through and picking the right opponents, generally, at those levels. I'm not sure they're as concerned at the Mahib Fazaldon level, but I think when they've really got their eyes on a fighter they want to develop, they're brilliant at it. And I think they're just picking the right opponents to build him through, and I'm sure they will turn him into a champion. Whether he ever becomes at world level, which is what they want him to, I have severe doubts on that. I must say I'm not sure that's gonna happen.
They're talking about super middleweight, aren't they, for Hutchinson?
I think that's more his weight, and I think that's more where he's going to be. Talking about super middleweights, you've seen the Ultimate Boxer. They've gone to super middleweight there, haven't they, for November? Just the subject.
Zach Chelly should win that.
Diego Costa, he probably wins it, but there's not very much money involved. Let me tell you that. It's half the money of a normal Ultimate Boxer. So you're having to go in a lot of fights for very little money, in my opinion. So
didn't they offer one of your lads? I won't say who, but not a super middleweight.
I was obviously at the time I was in my surgery period. They rang Kevin up and said, "We really like your lad," and Kevin said, "Yeah, we do too. That's why we're not going to let him do anything stupid like enter it." And that was the end of the conversation. And it really wasn't. It was, it was a really bad idea for our guy to be doing that at that weight. But yes, and Zach Chelly's a really good fighter. Jamie's coming in there. Zach Chelly's a very good fighter, and I think he'll probably win it. But it's not, Schofield's not bad. But there we go. We now can move on to our man from down in Devon.
Hi, Jamie.
How are you? All right?
Very good, mate. Very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, mate. Thank you. Yeah, all good. Literally just finished the session now, so apologies for my slightly late arrival. I was just finishing off with a boy from the gym.
Apparently, from what I've heard from ladies and everything else, that's quite normal for you.
What? Late finishing off?
Late arrival.
Yeah, late arrival. Yeah, I always arrive late to the party, Steve. But I call it fashionably late, is what I call it.
How are you doing, Mr. Speight?
Yes, I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, mad busy, mega busy, but can't complain. Yeah, all good. What about yourself?
Very good, mate. Very good. We're going to come on to why you're mad busy shortly, and where you're at. Before we do that, let's clarify. Are you still going to be boxing when boxing is back to normal?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm going to do probably one more year, and then that's me out.
Okay. Still out on the road?
No, this is the little secret me and Steve haven't discussed yet, but I've been discussing it with a few people.
We have discussed it.
Different people.
We have discussed it.
We have briefly discussed it, haven't we? Yeah. But
anyway,
I've discussed it with a few people.
As everybody's concerned, Jamie, just back on the road. Let's leave it like that. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, we'll just say that then. I'll go with whatever Steve says.
All right. I feel there's more to that, but I'm not going to get an answer now.
No, but you will get an answer in the not too distant future.
All right, excellent. So let's give people the background of Jamie Speight for those that don't know him. So we talk about you being on the road now. You're almost passing on all the years of fighting, all the years of experience that you've had. So let's take it back through like the Josh Warrington days, the Isaac Lowe days, and IBO days, all the things. Tell people what you've achieved during your career.
I've had a good. To be fair, I've had a good career. And like you say, records. People look at a record and they go, "Oh yeah, well, this, that, and the other," because that doesn't tell the true story. I chose to go the route I've gone. It was my choice. It was my decision, based on a lot of things. But prior to that, I've been in with some of the best fighters in the world. I've been in with Josh Warrington. I mean, you can watch the Josh Warrington fight on YouTube, and I've done a better job than Lee Selby. That's fact. Yep. I did do a better job than Lee Selby. And I went up there against a hostile crowd. I lost on points. I boxed Joe Cordina. I boxed Isaac Lowe, like you mentioned. But yeah, I've been in with some really good kids. But I got to a stage in my career where when I was getting these big fights, I wasn't getting the full training camp. Do you know what I mean? Like Eddie Earn or whoever else would say, "Oh yeah, we'll take the fight." So I'd get the fight, but I'd have 5 weeks. And I know full well that lad's been in 12 weeks, whatever he's been in, which, you know, it's one of them things. I never get a full camp. You never get a fair shake of it, do you? But based on that and the fact that down south, until Steve started signing people down here, it was dead. Boxing was dead. There was nothing. We were getting no opportunities. There was nowhere for me to box and be able to sell tickets at ease. So I chose to go the route where I didn't have to sell tickets, and I learned a lot in doing that. I didn't know nothing about the away side of the game until then, and I'm glad I did it, because now, like you said earlier, it gives me that knowledge that I can pass on to other people. I can pass on to my fighters, for example.
Yeah. So go back. I mean, you mentioned the Cordina fight there. He was one of the few people that's ever stopped you, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That was at lightweight, wasn't it?
Yeah, 990 a week. It was. I think the fight was made. Steve will tell you, he's the manager. He does the hard work. He told me, no, I think it was 9'8", and Cordina came in at 9'9", 7. But I didn't.
You'd have smashed him otherwise. You'd have smashed him otherwise.
No, mate. No, he was. To be fair, Joe's a lovely kid. He didn't hurt me at all. There was no power. He couldn't hurt me, but unbelievable speed and technical ability. I could not. Like, I'm a clever fighter. I'm good at reading the game. I'm good at reading fighters and being clever about the way I go about my work. Joe Cordina was about 3 steps ahead of me at all times. It was shocking. I was completely like a duck out of water.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a very, very good kid. Very fast, very accurate. And that's why if you watched it on Sky, when the referee stopped it, I didn't go like complain. I just laughed. He shook my head, just shook his hand and went, ridiculous.
So, I mean, I've had the pleasure of cornering you with Liam Conroy when you fought Tom Ansell.
Yeah, that's right.
Up at York Hall. And that was brilliant. It was it was coming back. It was a 4-rounder. I think up at welterweight. You got the phone call like that morning. Could you drive up?
Yeah. I got the phone call at like 10:30 in the morning. Steve phoned me up. Jamie! I said, I'm all right, Steve. Come on, then. Pack the bag. Off we go.
Up at welterweight as well.
Yeah, it's all right. I don't mind. And to be fair, I had to. Yeah, it wasn't a big issue. You know what I mean? He wasn't a big puncher, and nice kid, Tom, polite kid. But as far as boxing goes, he's not the most technically gifted. He's not a big puncher, and I don't believe that he knows how to make his weight count, how to sit on the shot and apply that weight from the back foot to the front foot when letting his hands go. So it was all right. It was comfortable enough. I'd done my job. Helped me old mate Steve out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I found it fascinating in that, because in my time I've done 2 corners. I've done Umar Sadiq and I've done yours. And Umar was the home fighter on top in his fight against Daryl Sharp. And that's a very different experience to do in your corner, where it was more like get through the 4 rounds. But then you came back at the end of the first round and you're like, he can punch a little bit, but yeah. So and then you're just having a laugh for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times I've watched you down at your call and you're just chatting through a fight. I'm like, you chat shit most of the time anyway. I know that, but doing it during a fight, doing it during a fight.
Yeah, but see, the difference is during a fight, and what I've done now is before what used to happen is I'd talk, and you could see the corner getting angry, and the kid would get angry. But what I do now is especially if it's one of Steve's fighters and I know the kid or I know the team, I'll go and speak to them prior to the fight without the kid seeing and just say, look, if you're going to be talking in there, I'm not undermining you. I'm not trying to teach your fighter stuff that you haven't or whatever. All I'm doing is giving him sound advice on the job. Because when you've done something wrong on fight night and then you've had 2 weeks off, 2 weeks later you go into the gym, how many things have happened? How many texts have you had? How many phone calls have you had? So then think back to that exact moment of what you did wrong and what you could do better. That's very hard. So there's no better time to learn than when it's happening and me say, don't do that, try this. And if they can get it, the muscle memory sits and they'll learn.
But do you know how mental that is to people that don't get into a ring, right? You're fighting someone there and then over 12 minutes and you're telling them how they should be hitting you. You're telling them what they should be doing differently to hurt you more.
Yeah, well, not really. Oh, I've got a head like a piece of wood, Mark.
Oh, I know you do. I know you do.
About that, but it's a hard. But
it's such a bizarre thing. Like the journeyman role, we all know what it is, but I find it fascinating, that insight into how you coach somebody through a fight. And I remember reading the book Journeyman. I think it was it Johnny Greaves that fought Floyd Moore at his debut?
Yeah.
No, he was saying Floyd Moore flew out of the corner. Went all hell for leather in the first round, and by the end of the second round, he was done. He was blowing out of his arse. He was done. And so Greaves Johnny had to hold him up and like whisper in his ear, just calm down. Stop trying to knock me. You're not going to knock me out.
Yeah.
Coach him
it is
through
like
the
that.
Fight.
It is like that. But
Johnny Greaves that day, he won that day. Johnny Greaves. He got given.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't want it. He kept saying, "Ref, no, you got the wrong winner."
Yeah, Floyd sold hundreds of tickets here. Don't give me the win.
Yeah.
So have you had those scenarios, Jamie, where you have to like tell someone, you're not going to knock me out, just calm it down?
Yeah, I've had to tell people before. Cheers, mate. I've had to tell people before. I've also said to people, generally, if you're polite to me at the weigh-in and you're respectful, which is what boxing is built on, really. So you should respect the opponent. He's putting his life on the line the same as you. If you're rude and disrespectful to me before the fight, then I'll give you a little whacker. I'll whack you a few times and I'll try and hurt you a little bit, because there's no need to be disrespectful. Shake my hand, let me weigh in, you weigh in, that's it, it's done. Then we can have a hug afterwards and be the best of friends. It's great. But generally, sometimes they get carried away, and especially with these kids who are inexperienced, they hear the crowds and they get overexcited. They're not comfortable being in the position they're in. So when the buzz is on, they just go for you and they forget what's been discussed prior to the fight happening. So I've had it a few times, but it's not too bad. I don't mind it. It's all right. You just get on with it, don't you?
So let's move on then, where you're at now. So you've started transitioning into kind of phase 3 of your career.
Yeah.
That being a trainer.
Yes, I've been training. I've got 3 pros currently, and I've got a few pros that are already established as professionals that come down and work with me, like Ricky Stummers. I met Ricky when I boxed Reece Bellotti on Sky for the WBC, and me and him were the only 2 non-Matchroom fighters, I think. And we were the only 2 non-Matchroom fighters on the top table. So we sat next to each other and we sort of clicked then. And then I discovered that he comes down to Dawlish quite often for a holiday. He's been coming down here since he was a kid. And then he discovered that I live nearby. So now every time he comes down, he comes in, I coach him, help him with some pads and help him with ideas and developing his skill, because he's now moving back towards that British title level. So yeah, I just try and help out with what I can experience-wise, and help him get the best out of himself. Because like you say, he's the same age as me, I think. I think he's 32, 33 coming up. So he's on the sort of last chance saloon, but he's a good kid, and I enjoy teaching people that are ready-made. I can start, like, I've got these 3 pros now who they've never been with a pro trainer, so it's basically clean slate. And I'm lucky that this is the first time you'll ever hear this, and only time. I'm lucky we've had lockdown, and I'm quite thankful for it. Because there's been no pressure of shows looming, there's been no pressure of ticket sales. There's been time that I could just go in and break them down from amateurs and get them into professionals, get them moving their head off the line, taking their feet off at different angles, a bit more head movement, don't just be stood upright, and don't just be running away and floating around the ring, because it's not the same game. Yeah. So I'm very lucky that I've had that time. Very lucky indeed.
So how much of your time are you going to be putting now into the coaching side as opposed to the fighting?
I see the lads 3 times a week at the minute, and then obviously I tell them what runs to do. I have them doing certain runs. I try and keep them. Normally I would do 6 days a week, 1 day rest, but I think sometimes that's overkill. And I started going, when you become a coach, it's weird. I started thinking over my career and how I've done things at different stages. And when I was up with Josh Warrington, we'd only train 5 days a week. We'd do Monday to Friday, and then we'd have Saturday and Sunday completely off. Or we'd come in, normally what we'd do, me and Josh, we'd be in Monday to Friday in the gym. And then Saturday morning, we'd drive down to Doncaster, spar with Jamie and Gavin McDonnell. And then that would be done by, say, 11 o'clock. And then the rest of Saturday and all the Sunday off. So I've started to employ that into the way that I train them. So, and I need them to understand that when you get to the last stages of your training for a fight, rest is more important than training. You're not going to lose any fitness for 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks of doing nothing, sitting down, doing absolutely nothing for you to lose any physical fitness. So knocking back the rounds and resting your body a bit is not going to harm you. It's only going to make you better. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. And then, like I say, I've spent, I'm one of them weird kids where, as a pro, when people were teaching me things, if I wasn't satisfied with the answer, I would go and ask that same question to another coach or somebody else until I thought, right, I've got a roundabout, I think I know where I'm at now. And I did that with everything. And that's what's made me, or will make me, a very good trainer, because I've had all the answers and I'm well travelled. I moved up to Leeds for 2.5 years with Josh. I was sparring with world champions day in, day out. I've been all over the country boxing different people, been around different sparring and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think I'll be a good coach, and it'll be nice to not get punched.
Yeah, so I mean, these lads are getting the residual benefit of all your years of being around world-class talent. That's
it. And my main job is to make sure that any mistakes I made in my career, they don't make them. I've made them, so I can say, look, don't do this, don't do that. And again, it's down to them to take it. It's only advice. If they choose to take my advice, then great. If they don't, then again, that's up to them. I don't control them. But at least I can give that advice and guidance. I mean, and I look back now, I wish when I turned pro, I had somebody like me to guide me and nurture me through. So, you know, it's a hard game, Mark. And I've been pro 11 years now. Yeah. And it's been hard. It's a hard game. I mean, as much as I've loved it, enjoyed it, it's hard. So it's my job to make it that little bit easier for them.
Yeah. Are we going to have nights where we see you fighting and in the corner?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like probably. I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah. I'll, like you say, if it ever comes up and there's 2 or 3 or all of us on the same bill, then I would just ask Steve, who is my manager and my friend, Steve, come on, mate, shuffle us about a bit, put me on early, get me out, or however it works. You know what I mean? Even if I've got to wait till the end so I can deal with them first, it doesn't bother me because, like you say, my career's almost been and gone. and it's time for them to. They're only starting out, so they should really be at the forefront of my mind. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll come and give you a hand getting them ready backstage.
I know you will, mate. I know you will.
Before we finish up, Jamie, what's the highlight of your career? You've had Southern Area wins, Southern Area defences. You've fought on massive shows. You've fought world-class talents. What's the one thing that stands out?
What do you mean highlight? As in, what is my boxing highlight?
Yeah, so when you retire, what would be the one thing that you look back on with the most fondness?
I don't know. Walking out at the O2 as chief support to Frank Buglioni versus Ricky Summers when I boxed Reece Bellotti for WBC, primetime Sky. That was good because I knew what I was doing. I knew that I'm walking out. I know there's hundreds of thousands of people watching. I'm fighting for, a WBC title, which is it's the best belt in the world, the green and gold belt. The other thing would be when I boxed Josh Warrington, he was a nobody. To everybody, he was a nobody. He just won the English title. He was up and coming. He won the English title in the fight before away against Chris Mayo. We went down to Chris Mayo's backyard and beat him up, won the English. So I was in there thinking I'm just in with some kids, and they hated me, and I mean hate. Like they booed me that bad, I couldn't even hear my entrance tune. I was stood there to walk in, I couldn't hear where my music was because all I could hear was, ooh. They were throwing things at me, telling me they're going to kill my nan and granddad.
Wow.
Yeah, it was serious. Yeah, we're going to kill your nan and granddad. All right, mate, steady on. And then after we boxed, obviously I put up a good effort and I didn't let him have his own way. And at the end, I lifted his hand in the air to say, we'd won after they give the result. And I got a standing ovation from the whole of the Leeds crowd.
Yeah.
That was quite nice. And then to look back at that, I've got a photo. I can send it to you, Steve, of me and him holding hands, like holding hands up in the air at the end of the fight. And I've got his hand up in the air at the end. And to look back at that and then see where he's gone to and what he's done, that will be something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's quite exceptional. Like outside of the title wins that you've had and the title defences.
Like winning titles is great. I mean, I've been Southern Area champion I think 4 times, 2 different weights. Should be 3 because I beat Louis Petit up, but they robbed me because it was his show. But that was all well and good, and it's something that as a fighter you prepare for that. No one joins the game and goes, oh yeah, I'd like to win and lose a few. You join the game because you want to win titles, you want to be a champion. So your mind prepares yourself for that to happen. But your mind doesn't prepare yourself to box Josh Warrington, who goes on to be world champion and beat numerous British greats. So yeah, it'll always be a highlight for me, always. And then the way that things transpired after that, when obviously his dad came and then I ended up moving to Leeds and we had a great relationship. It was good, mate. It was really, really good. That'll be a highlight for me, I think.
You still in contact with him and Sean now?
I speak to Josh now and again, not really that often. It's more text messages because he's a busy lad, you know what I mean? He's running around left, right and centre. He's the cream of the crop, isn't he, now?
He is. He is.
Not like little old me. Little old cannon fodder just knocking about your call. Hello, mate. All right, yeah.
You're building the next Josh Warrington. You'll be fine.
That's it. All I'm doing now is concentrating on making something out. You know what I mean? My career isn't a loss, or I've lost fights, but the knowledge and experience I've gained, I can pass on to somebody else and make them a better, more successful fighter. And I've said to all 3 of my lads, I'm not going to get moody if you surpass me. You win the Southern Area title, then go on and win English. That's what I want. I want you to go on and win the English, win the British. That means that I've done my job right. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next phase. But wait till I hang the gloves up before you start giving me that, Marty.
There's still some life in it yet.
Yeah, and Steve, you've got some stressful nights ahead, sat by that ringside watching me get whacked about. Oh. Don't worry, mate. I'll be all right.
Right, Mr. Speight, thank you very much for your time. It's we could do an hour or so another time, I think, of getting some of your stories.
Problem.
But yeah, appreciate
no
it.
problem, mate.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, boys. It's a pleasure to see you, and I hope COVID's treating you okay and you're not too bored.
We're doing our best.
We're all good, mate.
Well, I'll love you and leave you. Send my best to all your families, and I'll hopefully catch up with you in the not too distant future.
Top man, Joe. You look after yourself,
Take
mate.
care, man. Before I move on too far, I need to remember to give a shout out for Robbie Chapman, who sent me one of his sponsors, Camden Locks.
Oh, okay.
Deal with, I believe, his tattoos and do his dreadlocks. And yeah, I said I would give them a mention this week. So Camden Locks, who sponsored Robbie Chapman.
Robbie's coming down to see me next week, just to pay me a visit, just general chat. And what I'll do is I'll get him on one of the weeks after, so he can do it himself. Because he'd be really good. I mean, we've got Jamani Kamira on next week, so maybe we'll try and get Robbie Chapman on the week after, because he's always very interesting. So it's
excellent. So yeah, Camden Locks, Robbie Chapman. So visit them if you're around Camden. The Camden caretaker himself, Robbie Chapman. Before I forget, I thought I'd better mention them. Jamie's fascinating, isn't he? He's such a character.
Lovely guy as well. Really,
he really is.
He's a friend as well now, and it's just so nice. He's just such a nice guy, and utmost respect for him. And I'll do anything I could to help him, because he's really nice.
Are you going to be managing his fighters?
Well, we signed one, and the other two we just spoke to this week. So yeah, I would expect. So one's already signed, and the other two now. We just spoke to them yesterday, I think it was. So we just explained to them how it works, because you do have to explain to the fighters the bad bits, and they've got to come to terms with the bad bits. We won't do the sugarcoat bullshit. We say this is what we do, but this is the bad stuff. So make sure before you turn pro you understand the bad stuff, because no boxer can ever come back to us and say we weren't told. Other managers, they're all kicking off, aren't they? We want our contracts back. You never told me this. You never told me that. We don't have that. So we want them to take time to decide before they do it. But yeah, I would fully expect them to sign if they turn pro. Yeah.
Excellent. So we see more of Jamie around your call.
We will be, and hopefully other venues as well. Good.
Right, shall we have a look at the Matchroom card this weekend?
I'm actually excited about it. I don't know what you feel. You probably think it's dross. I actually think it's not a bad. There's one fight that I'm going to go and make a cup of tea and probably talk to my wife. But apart from that, I'm going to watch them all. I think it's actually not a bad card.
I like the fact Tricia gets a look in when it's such a bad fight.
Oh, yeah, because she'll be upstairs and I'll say, look, it's not all about boxing. I'll go and make you a cup of tea. It's because I love you and I care for you and boxing doesn't come first. The real truth is it's because the fight's shit and I won't have a break from it.
I do the same thing, but I do it for 4 fights and watch one of them. There's been some right shit during this lockdown. I can't be bothered with it. I'm going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, so do you want me to start from the bottom?
Yeah, go on, then.
Okay, let's start off with you, Chatham. Ellie Scotney against Beck Connolly.
I love Ellie Scotney. She has such a twinkle about her, a little sparkle in her eyes. She's a bit cheeky. You see that post she put up the other day where everyone's doing that, how it started, how it's going and stuff?
There's a picture of her being...
She put up her and Eddie Hearn shaking hands, and how it's going was her sat in her B&Q outfit. I think she's got a real character about her.
And I said this months ago, I think she is a future superstar of boxing because she has the personality to go with the boxing ability. People will love her and they'll fall in love with her as a boxer. And I think she has got the thing to take women's boxing up another notch. And I can't say, and other boxers are doing a brilliant job, but she could take it to a new level. She's got...
Yeah, it's a hard fight, though. Beck Connolly on her debut.
Yeah, Beck's tough, but Ellie, I think, is a special talent. I mean, Beck got stopped by Jonas, stopped by Terry Harper, lost every round to Rachel Ball. So let's be quite real about that. That Becky is a good, competent fighter, but when she steps up, she gets beat. Ellie Scotney won't have as much experience as, say, Natasha or Terry, but she's a very good amateur. She would have had more experience than Rachel. I don't think this is very competitive. I think Ellie Scotney wins this comfortably. And
All right.
there's no disrespect to Beck. I think Beck will be tough and stand in there, but I think Ellie Scotney is special, very special.
Cool. Right. I agree. I mean, I haven't really seen too much of her fight, but Matchroom don't typically sign just anyone, unless you're Australian, you weigh in your bra and knickers. Then it turns out they do.
Yeah, Ellie Scotney's been signed for talent, not. By the way, I'm not saying she's not a good-looking girl. Please don't. Ellie will probably go and crucify me for saying it. That's not the reason they signed her.
She's the blend of all of it.
Correct. That's the way to do it. But she's got the talent where some of these others haven't.
Yes, she does.
Yeah,
from what I know.
No, she's great, and I wish her all the best in her debut. And I'm looking forward to see it, to other people realising what I believe and a lot of others do in the sport. And I hope she does herself justice on her debut, because a debut is a hard thing. And as you rightfully say, Beck Connolly's a tough fight for anybody's debut, for sure.
It's a legit fight for a debut.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the fight where I'm going to go and make a cup of tea. Thomas Patrick Ward against Thomas Asomba.
Yeah, that's a strange one.
Well, so you've got Thomas Patrick Ward, 29-0 with 4 stoppages, who can't punch, against Thomas Asomba, 10-6, who doesn't get stopped. Thomas Ward has got the skill set. Thomas Asomba will try. It's a points win for Thomas Ward all day long, twice on a Sunday. You can't bet on it, but it's going to be just a one-way traffic fight, I think. So I will be planning not to be too busy. I think I watch the first round, if it's what I believe is going to happen, then I'll go off and play nice and then come back when the fight's over.
Yeah, if you can get odds on that fight, go in the distance.
I mean, there is no odds. I've had a look because we were going to have a bet. But there's a couple of small bets I'm having on the card, but that is not what. That would be one of them if I could have got a reasonable sort of bet. But he's 16 on to win the fight, which is ridiculous. You probably get 8s on 9s on to win the fight, but if you could get the points win at about 3 on 4 on, then I'd be having a bet. If the market opens up and it's that sort of odds, I'd be backing it. Obviously, there's a risk of somebody getting cut or technical decision, but so you've got to build that into the equation. But if you can get a points win at somewhere near the 2 on 3 on 4 on, it would be something worth considering.
Yeah.
Moving up, Case Ashfaq Mark Leach. Ashfaq 8-0 was originally signed by Haymaker. He beat Joe Ham on a technical decision. Did drop around to Sean Davis. I'm not overly. It's another one. I'm not overly impressed. I think he's a good fighter. He was a good amateur. But I'm not overly. I don't think he's the next superstar coming forward. I think he's a competent amateur, but he'll be one of those that's not as good a professional as an amateur. And Mark Leach is 14 1-1. It's not a one-way fight. I expect Ashfaq to win, but he's not going to have it his own way, and it's going to be a fight well worth watching. So that's the third fight. The fourth fight, this is of interest to me. It's Joe Laws, who, have you seen him fight before, Martin?
Yeah. He's how can I put this nice? I don't think he's very good. I think he's loads of fun.
Yeah, he was actually. What's really interesting, he was an elite English amateur. He won the amateur title. He was amateur champion of England.
Right.
But he's not been tested as a pro. He's been well matched, and this is his first test as a pro. And he fights Ryland Charlton, who's managed by Dan Naylor, who's been shouting from the rooftops that he's going to create an upset. But let's be realistic. He drew with Dan West on a home show. He dropped around to Des Newton. He dropped around to Lee Gunter. And he's only had one proper stoppage against the 0-6 kid. Now, I've watched him today. It's exciting, but Joe Laws wins. 4-9 Joe Laws isn't a bad bet. And not a big bet, but I've had a few quid on at 4-9 on Betfair. I think that it's not a one-way fight as such, but I think he'll have a bit too much. for Charlton, but Joe Laws isn't going to the highest level, but he's a fun fighter to watch. But I think he'll have a bit too much for Charlton, especially as the fact that he is a humongous ticket seller in Newcastle. Huge. He sells like 500 tickets a fight. So I don't think Charlton gets... Charlton would have to win by about 3 rounds to get a win on points, I would imagine. So I would imagine Joe Laws will win. May do it on points, may do it by stoppage. But I think 4-9 represents fair value. I'd have had him a little bit, maybe at around 2 to 7, 1 to 4. Nowhere near a big bet, but a few quid. I always think, it's still worth a small bet at 4-9. Finally, we've got the Lewis Ritson Miguel Vasquez fight. I hate this. Now I'm going to give you my pet hate now of boxing. Bringing over Mexicans and South Americans for fights. Now, he lost on a controversial points decision against Ahara Davis, but Ahara Davis did not turn up that night. He is a former IBO world champion. He's 42-9. He's definitely sliding. He's been brought over as to lose to Ritson. I would assume he hasn't had that much notice because they're desperate over there for fights. So I presume that Ritson, whose only loss was to Patera, Patera's had 3 successful defences of the European title since then at lightweight. He's now moved up. And look, it's not a betting fight by any stretch of the imagination. You've got Ritson at 2-17, Vasquez at 13-2. I'm not being thingy about this. I'd rather see Lewis Ritson fight Kay Prosper. Because that
will rematch Robbie Davis.
I'd rather see that because let's give them an all. There are plenty of good British super lightweights that would make more interest than bringing over a shop, in my opinion, a shop-worn Mexican who probably hasn't had the notice that he wants. So it's one of my.
He doesn't even have the name value either.
No.
Yes, he beat Ahara Davis. I know he hasn't beaten him on the record, but he did beat Ahara Davis that night. But otherwise, apart from that, his best years are long gone.
Then O'Hara isn't world level. So what does it really mean? I think we saw that in O'Hara's last fight. He's a good fighter, but he's not world level. So I think in reality, that is a bit of a disappointing fight for me. And it's my pet hate about the South Americans. If I'm developing a fighter who's won a British title, and they're managed by Hearn or Warren, I want them to bring a South American over because that's right. That's what suits me as a manager. As a fan, and we're talking about it as a fan here, no.
Yeah. Right. Talking of being a fan, we've got 3 minutes left of this call. Let's go on to the fight where we're both fans of one certain man.
This is the fight of the year. Let alone weekend. Vasyl Lomachenko against Teofimo Lopes. We love Teofimo Lopes. We've rated him, haven't we? We were both in New York when he beat Richard Comey. We are there. Obviously, we're going to have the experts coming on in a minute. Fight TV have shown it. I can't believe Sky or BT didn't do it, but well done Fight TV for bringing it to our screens at $9.95. If you haven't subscribed, buy this fight. It's worth buying for. We're always telling you don't buy these pay-per-views. This is one worth paying for, so go and buy it.
Support Fight TV with that.
100%. Don't stream it. Don't be a scummer on this one because it's worth it. I totally understand you streaming the shit ones, but this one, they deserve to get the money. So please subscribe. Martin, prediction.
Lopes stoppage.
I actually think that Lopes has a chance of, this is the first time that Lomachenko is in real danger because he's got everything, Lopes. It may come too early. What I do predict is if Lomachenko wins, Lopes will still become a great.
Yeah, I mean, it's heart and head, isn't it? Like, head says Lomachenko probably stops him late. But I love Lopes. Like, there's something about him, that bad boy image, the fact he wallops so hard, the fact he's arrogant, all that stuff. I just love the bloke. Like,
anybody that's got the attitude to beat Lomachenko, who's not half realising they're in trouble, it'll be him. I think it's a great fight. It would not surprise me to see him win. I'm not having a bet on the fight. I think 3-1 on Lomachenko, 3-1 Lopes is about right. But I think there could be an upset, but it's going to be a great fight to watch. Let's listen to what everybody else says. And before we do that, we're wrapping up for this week, Martin.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back here next week. And we got Jamani Camiro, who's got plenty of stories to tell.
Excellent. So let's hand it over to the proper experts who are going to tell us who wins.
Hi Steve, I trust you and the Leighton Buzzard Massive are well. Lomachenko, Lopes. Like a lot of things in life, I think it's probably come a little bit early for Lopes. So quite similar to Mayweather against Canelo. So it'd be competitive, I think, for probably 3 or 4 rounds. And then Lomachenko will grind out a fairly comfortable victory on points. But I think the other guy will be a superstar in time. All the best. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Lomachenko against Teofimo Lopes, Unification World Lightweight Championship fight. It's the fight 2020's been waiting for. It's been, for everybody, an absolute two-bob year, but for boxing fans, this is one that you can't miss. It's a must-watch fight. And first of all, you've got to congratulate Fight TV for picking it up. If they hadn't, we would have been back to the pre-Box Nation days of 8-9 years ago, where Sky would only pick up marquee fights. And you'd have liked to have seen Sky or BT show a bit more effort in maybe getting this fight, but fair play to Fight TV, and I certainly won't complain at paying $9.99. Big up to him, and what a fight it's going to be. Look, I've got to go with the man who I've seen the most, I know the most, who's done it the most, and that's Vasyl Lomachenko. Although, look, he's not in the division he favours, lightweight. He admits he can't go much further up. Teofimo Lopes, unbeaten in 15 fights, just oozes confidence, particularly impressed him in his last fight against Richard Comey. I remember, towards the last days of Box Nation, I think one of the last fights I covered there was his fight against Diego Magdaleno, and that was a frightful beating that he dished out. But unless Loma's injuries have caught up with him and he's become shot-worn all overnight, you've got to go with him to be a little bit, his footwork, he's technically more gifted than Teofimo Lopes. So I have to go to him to win on points. I just hope that, and I'm sure it's going to end like this, and I can see why people are tipping Lopes. I just hope that Lopes shows enough that he can go on and become a great world champion, that he can be win or lose against Lomachenko this weekend. Absolutely fantastic fight, and may the best man win. For me, that's Lomachenko.
Hi, Gary Logan here. Steve Goodwin's asked me to give you my opinion on the upcoming fight this weekend between Teofimo Lopes and Vasily Lomachenko. I've got to go Lomachenko on this one. I just think it's a fight, probably about 3 or 4 fights too early for young Lopes. He's precocious, he bangs hard, he's a great athlete. But I just think right now, at this point in their careers, Lomachenko will just know too much for him. And I see him outboxing him predominantly on the back foot. I just think he's just going to keep leading Teofimo onto shots and counter-punch him. And Teofimo is going to be looking to land that big right hand. But I just think Lomachenko is going to beat him to the point, beat him to the punch, make him miss and make him pay. So I've got Lomachenko winning on a points decision in a very, very exciting fight.
Lomachenko versus Lopes. I think that's a really good fight that the fans want to see. I think that Lopes, even though he's a top draw boxer, I'm not sure he's been tested at the highest level. Obviously, we all know what Lomachenko's about. I think he's number one or one of the number one pound for pounds in boxing at this point in time. So to be honest, my money's on Lomachenko. I think Lopes will start fast and he will pick up rounds. I think Lomachenko will take over in the later rounds and possibly get a stoppage. But I think it's a really good fight. But our money's on Lomachenko.
Hi Steve, hope you're well and looking after yourself and all your family as well in this current climate. Great fight coming up this weekend. Obviously a bittersweet fight for me. Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopes. Wishing it was Richard Comey obviously, but unfortunately we couldn't make it. But that's boxing. My thoughts on the fight, starting with Lomachenko. As you know, fantastic. Everybody knows what a fantastic fighter he is. Great amateur career, great skill set, brave as they come. He's got all the attributes to win this fight. He's very skillful, very slippery, got vast amounts of experience in the amateurs, and he looks like he's carried it over to the professional ranks. So I think he'll be ready. He knows what he's in for. Obviously, he's the smaller guy, so I'm quite sure he'll have his tactics set out to go for the distance. Looking at Teofimo, obviously seeing him up close and personal, not for too many rounds. Obviously, it's difficult to say. You know, is with him, the jury's still out from my point of view. I know when you first saw him back in Dallas when Richard won the world title, you thought he was an exceptional fighter. I still think the jury's out. You know, I still think he's got a tricky tie against a southpaw, a very, very good southpaw. But he's going to be the bigger guy, and he possesses a punch on him. So it's going to be interesting to see how he negates himself through the southpaw stance, and as the fight goes on, if he can get to Lomachenko. Personally, I think as the fight goes on, if he lets Lomachenko set into a rhythm, I think it's going to be a long night for Teofimo. You know, he had trouble with Nakatani. He was a southpaw, a taller southpaw, ranger southpaw, but he still had a lot of trouble with him. Didn't look too good, but got through the fight just about. So it's going to be interesting to see how Teofimo negates himself through the southpaw stance and see if he can get to Lomachenko early and put some hurt on him. If not, I do think it's going to be a long night for Teofimo in terms of, you know, in getting into any kind of rhythm, and I think possibly looking at points for Lomachenko. Lomachenko definitely can't stop Teofimo. I can't see that happening. I can only see Lomachenko winning on points, you know, or an early stoppage for Teofimo. But really and truly, I think Lomachenko on points.